are launching our early wildfire detection system, and we're going to talk a little bit about why we're doing this and how we're doing it. And then Heather's going to take us through the actual sensors and what they are and why they're super strong. And most importantly, focus on the app that her company has developed, which is where we as community members will be signing up and monitoring smoke alerts. And if they are near us, we'll be responding. So she's going to teach us all about that, and also how you guys can sign up if you're interested and how to respond. And then we'll summarize it just with some kind of general community actions from a UBET standpoint and open it up to questions. We're also going to keep you guys on mute when you're not talking, but anytime we're a small group, if you'd like to have a question or a comment, just take yourself off mute and we'll pause for breaks in between each section. Welcome, Sean. Glad you could make it. Sorry I made you wait in the waiting room and didn't know how to use it. Appreciate you calling back in. So we'll kick right off. First, I want to share a little bit about our 2025 wildfire season preparedness and how the smoke detectors fit into that. And some of you have seen some of this content before, but in essence, from a standpoint of like just being a FireWise community working toward being fire adapted, there's 5 major buckets that we have to think about. The first one is mitigation. And mitigation is, how do we mitigate the impact of a wildfire? How do we help it become less powerful and out of control? And for us as residents, that typically means things around defensible space, roadside clearing, and putting all sort of the things in preparation for a fire coming. It could be new water tanks and things like that. Preparedness oftentimes means, it could mean home hardening, which is the most important thing for a wildfire, is to, put the 1/8-inch screens on your vents and make sure that you don't have any holes in your house where embers could intrude. But preparedness is also personal preparedness. It's where you sign up for watch duty and code red and make sure you know your evacuation zone. Pop quiz to my friend Ohm and Dusty. They just figured theirs out yesterday. What do you think it is? Quick pop quiz. You got that? It's NCOE 187. Bam. So preparedness means being ready for the fire, being ready for what's to come, and making sure you have your go bags and things of that nature. UBET has also been working on the response side. And ultimately, this is where the wildfire sensors fit in. So we have our handheld radio program, we have the sensors, and we have a team of folks that we've been working with to train to respond to fires effectively. And then the evacuation is, what we do when it's time to go, and recovery is where we hope we never get there. So what it looks like from the UBET perspective this year, I want to thank you guys for doing your wildfire mitigation. We've had community green waste. We're seeing massive improvement in the properties as we drive up and down UBET. And we have done quite a few defensible space visits to neighboring homes, which is where we give an assessment for both their defensible space and their home hardening and help them become more fire safe. So today, again, we're super excited about the smoke sensors and how it fits into our program. So with that, one more quick thing. Why the N5SHIELD sensors matter? There's 4 kind of primary areas. The first is early detection. So it will identify and address small fires before they grow. And as most everyone knows, we residents are first in 100% of the time on every fire in UBET. So this matters, right? It's not even that minutes matter, it's seconds matter. We can respond faster, and we can, with our new training, we can be more effective when we are able to respond and do an initial attack on a small fire. Improve safety, right? So we're in a very difficult situation with our 9-mile road. So if we wait for a code red to tell us to evacuate, it might already be too late. UBET Road could conceivably be closed. So for us, it gets the jump on alerting our neighbors that something's happening, and we're not going to be alarmist about it, right? It's just to say, hey, be aware there's something happening, and then we'll close it out when we recognize that there's no threat. And last but not least, I mean, gosh, these wildfires, they're super expensive, not to mention the time and emotional angst of losing a home. So if we can prevent that from happening, and prevent the fire agencies from having to do a full wildland, extended attack over days, if not weeks, that saves millions and sometimes billions of dollars. So it truly does have impact across the board. I did want to give a quick overview of what we've been doing with the smoke sensors. We've been in test. So we were awarded this grant and we started in May of 2024. And we instantly met here locally with Heather and Know-Wildfire. And then we met with CAL FIRE and Peardale separately and collectively. And so we started collaborating with them around where should these sensors go. And from their past experience with fires in our community and fire behavior, they made some really specific recommendations. And then we went into planning with Know-Wildfire. And then we started doing site visits to our neighbors. And mostly that was Mike. Mike, did you want to speak to that at all?
Sure. We got together with CAL FIRE and Peardale, and we kind of scouted out different locations for our sensors. Some came to tuition. We ended up putting sensors there. Some we had to back off, and it was a slow process. But I now have 14 of the 15 sensors in ground and working. I installed one today, and I just got one more to go.
Thank you, Mike. And so behind the scenes, Mike has been the implementer, the contactor of our neighbors. The site visits require, making sure that there's solar, enough sun for the solar to operate, and cell coverage. So not every site, we pick out we thought would be good strategically, but it didn't always work out. So he's probably done, I don't know, 20, 40, 50 site visits. And once they're installed, he has to go back and troubleshoot them as well. So thanks to Mike for getting us up and running. And then we've continued to have update meetings with CAL FIRE and Peardale Fire Department. But the main thing is that we went live going into the fall, knowing that it's burn season and we would see a lot of burn pile. And Heather will walk us through a little bit about what the data showed there. And then we kind of finalized in May with CAL FIRE sort of the protocols that they'll be using through their emergency command center, which is dispatch basically for all resources. And so today, here we are rolling out to the community. This is where we all come in. So huge shout out. I said to Mike, that picture with Heather and Mike in the upper left was way back last summer when the boxes got delivered to us. And, he learned with Heather and her partners how to build and install the units. And then all the neighbors, down below, we went to a lot of properties. You've got Mike Tony, Ron Miner at Hanson's Quarry. You've got Brad. So it's really been a team of people coming together to bring this to life. So with that, turning over to Heather, and I did not make you a co-host as I was going to try to practice to do. So just let me know when you would like me to click.
This actually works better. We have it down.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
My name's Heather Dawson, and I live over here in Truckee. So I am also a member of Nevada County in a very high fire district. And so I'm really only an hour and a half away, and always happy to visit and bring bread. And I started working with the N5 sensor manufacturer about a year and a half ago, helping them bring this new technology to market. It was supported by the U.S. Fire Administrator, Dr. Lori Merrill Merritt. And our point of view is that homeowners just really don't have a lot of tools to help us understand this changing landscape. And so we really wanted to bring this down to the community, but that requires community participation. And so we're experimenting with this brand called Guardian, because between N5 and Know-Wildfire, Guardian kind of brings us together. Click.
Trying.
Hopefully click.
No, you know what? Hang on. I know where I have to go down to the bottom here. It's not a keyboard click. My apologize.
No worries. So we all know that the risk is increasing and it's not going to go away anytime soon. We've heard, hey, this is the worst fire that we've ever seen in 100 years. And then the next year we hear the same thing. And the next year we hear the same thing. And so it's really important for us to prepare not just for historical, but also to be prepared for an unknown future where we ideally want to thrive and survive, or survive and thrive. Click. And what this means from a wildfire perspective is there just isn't that much time anymore from the time the ember hits the ground and starts the fire to when it grows really quickly. And I know your community really lives this, being first in on every fire. And those first few minutes really count, right? So, you know, it's going to grow faster. It's going to get bigger, create its own winds. And so this fast response is critical. Click. Of course, you know, we kind of all know this, but because it's growing exponentially, it seems small for a bit, and then it just explodes. And we want to get there before. We want to detect that fire in the smoldering phase and be able to get first eyes on the fire and begin to organize the response as quickly as possible. Click. And it can mean not just benefits for our immediate community, but it can save billions. Every fire that doesn't get big is a huge economic benefit, and we're not tracking that yet. We're tracking all the loss, but we're not tracking all the wins. And this is really a program about the wins. Click. So when we look at, like, how do we compress that response time? The ignition is the ignition, and all the others are constant. Dispatch is going to take the amount of time it takes. Travel is based on availability of resources and arrival. So the only thing that we can really easily compress is this notification. And so that's really kind of where we're focused. That's why early detection is so critical. Click. And of course, you like us are in a completely red hazard zone. And so, you know, that makes us really at the center of the storm. Click. Thinking about early detection, this is not a new concept. We have been trying to identify fires way back in the watchtower days with people camping or spending summers up there, to fire sighting telescopes, and now AI fire cameras are becoming mainstream. We had Chief Hudson come to our community and say, look, that's the difference maker. We're going to invest in 100 more cameras over in Nevada County, because 30% of the fires are being detected by cameras, and it's way more efficient and faster for us than humans. So we're going to make this investment. But that's 9 years after that technology came to market. And of course, once the fire is above the canopy, the cameras can see it. But what about when it's smoldering below the canopy and in our backyards? And that's really where this environmental sensor technology can come in. It was introduced in 2022, and we're working with the N5 sensor company to bring that product to communities under the brand Guardian. Click.
Before we move on, importantly here, you guys, UBET has a number of dark spots with those AI fire, the cameras. So like Alert California cameras we see on watch duty, we have a lot of kind of places where the cameras can't see. So these sensors help us fill that gap.
And it was kind of interesting, you know, just kind of relaying on that, was talking with Chief Beerwagon and Chief Chiswick and asking the question, where's your biggest fear? Like, if you have a fire in these locations, what's the thing that keeps you up at night? And can you tell me which way the wind is blowing in your biggest, scariest moment? Because the sensors are pick up fires that are upwind. You know, they might be 20, 30 feet away, but if the wind is going in the wrong direction, they're not going to pick this up. So that was a really important part of learning and planning for this. And now, of course, we need to collect some data and continue to improve on that. But here's what happens is that they detect smoke, and they have specialized gas sensors that the N5 sensor company invented 10 years ago that can detect gases. So a wildfire isn't just smoke. It's not just, it's differentiated from other kinds of fires. We don't want to pick up barbecues. Ideally, we don't want to pick up chimneys, although chimney has a very similar signature to wildfire smoke. But we want to be able to do more than just particle sensing in this, and to detect the signature of wildfire. And so they do that in an off-grid way with, there's a solar panel, a battery, an antenna. They collect information every few seconds, they consolidate that, and then they have an artificial intelligence engine that says, hey, you know, I think we have a fire here. And so these alerts are generated from N5, and we pass them through to you on your phone via text messages. And the messages are orange alert or red alert. And an orange alert is, hey, I think there's smoke. I'm not really sure if it's a new fire, but I'm pretty sure that there's smoke somewhere. And a red alert is, I'm pretty sure, probability wise, that we have a new fire. And it's something that we want you to look up and see what you see. And our app will tell you how far that sensor is and that alert from your home. So if it's close by, look up and tell us what you see. And that's the beginning of the response reaction that we're building collectively with the community. It's also going to the command center, but they're maybe 50, 100 miles away. So they don't see what you see, and we can really hone in on that. Click. A little bit of a deep dive for the technical folks. There's 24 different gas sensors. There's 4 different particle sensors. There's a humidity and a temperature sensor. And then we also have wind sensors. So it's very, it's built for commercial, and we're kind of bringing it into consumer. There may be more products over time that are even more consumer oriented, but this is a kind of an industrial grade product. Click. And the ones that we have in UBET, they communicate over LTE, but the infrastructure can also be lower end satellite. And again, that's really important when we think about some of the off-grid needs that we have. Click. I don't even know why this one's here, but just
because it looks really
good. But you can see that the heat sensor is pretty broad. So when you get to 212 Fahrenheit, it's pretty close to burning up. And they've actually tried to burn these in a fire, and they survive reasonably well. But again, just another technical. This is pretty serious stuff. It's not DIY. It's pretty high quality, serious stuff. And the cloud environment behind them is also collecting terabytes of data and trying to hone in on the location and the immediate time when you can recognize that it's a fire. Click.
Heather, if I could, clarification. My understanding when we first started talking about this is that the technology was first developed by the Department of Homeland Security or something like that for chemical warfare, and they were repurposing it for other applications, and wildfire was one of the ways that they selected.
Yeah, so N5 Sensors has been around for a long time, about 10 years, and they, out of the University of Maryland, developed this nano gas sensor chip. Okay, it's a chip. It's manufactured, they manufacture it, but most of the products that this chip has gone into are for to detect chemicals when we have people out, when in war situations where we have people out and they may not be able to smell or see a gas that's been released, but we need to pull them out of the environment immediately once that's out there. So the chips can be programmed to detect a specific chemistry or a specific group of chemicals. And in this case, they programmed it for the wildfire detection. And of course, with each release, we continue to improve that.
Very cool. Thank you.
And then in UBAT, we had 2 wind sensors. And again, these are wind sensors that are industrial grade. And this is important because airplanes don't fly when the wind is above 20 miles per hour. And so the response that is possible is, dictated by wind. And so we have one of the wind sensors on Old Immigrant and one in Chalk Bluff. And Mike has 4 more wind sensors. And we're looking to the community to help us get our arms around when and how that wind data helps us with response. So you have extra ones in your community so that we can build competence around that. Click. So before we have the sensors, we have two cameras. I don't know if any new ones have come up. I don't think so.
No.
But pretty broad coverage, but not great in the valleys. And then click. After we put the sensors in, we have a lot more coverage across it. We can always have more. More is always better. But we have 14 now and 1 more to go. And then Sean, your neighbor in Colfax, also has sensors that he's deploying in a similar program with his fire chiefs and also his community. And so really we're going to have this big 30 sensor network right here between Placer and Nevada that we can all benefit from in terms of early detection. Click. So as part of your subscription, you have all of the Firewise community that KC is working with have a special app subscription. It's prepaid until March of 2027 to allow us to get as many people as we need on it and to get feedback and improve it. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit on that. I did send the link in the chat. And if you have your phone, you're welcome to begin installing it on your phone and getting ready to go. Click. So after you register and you give us your name, your phone number, and your address, and then we put a kind of a radius around your address, and that's your protection zone. And yours, you can set that up to 10 miles, and you can put additional places or points down if you want to monitor more what's going on in Colfax or other areas across the state. And when there's an alert, you will be notified. And I want to announce a new feature that we just rolled out because it just went live today. And that is that we now have integration with the CAL FIRE incident website. And so not only will you have early detection from the sensors, but you will be getting a notification when there's a CAL FIRE start in your radius. So we're looking to add more and more, and that's just another one that's coming on. So you get an alert, and you can configure these. Maybe you don't want every alert. There's red and orange, which I described. And then in the burn season, you can also register a burn, and that will let people know. And so it's a really great way to let people know before the smoke starts traveling around them, because maybe they need to get out of the area, they're sensitive to smoke, or maybe it would just like reduce their anxiety if they knew. So you can register a burn. And we also have particle sensing. So when when the air quality is really bad, you could get an alert from that. And now, of course, you can get alerts from the fires, from CAL FIRE. So you get this alert, you click on it, and it brings you into the map. And in the map, you can kind of see where you are relative to where the alert is. And we want you to look up, especially if you're close to that. And now you can share your observation, and your observation can be shared immediately with your neighbors. Click. And the goal here is to help the emergency command center stay in line or get the best feedback while we're first in on the fires and also organizing our local response. So it's to kind of keep us parallel. And of course, the fire agencies, they know they have a smoke protocol, and KC has a smoke protocol for UBAT and the 911 and the radio protocol that this kind of dovetails into. Click. So when you want to submit an observation, we ask you to select one of these. I smell smoke, I see flames. Please, if there's any danger, call 911 first, always. But then come back, report it on the radio, and use this app to share a picture or your comments, and the location that your observation is made will be recorded on the map so other people know what you're seeing from your location. Again, it's really important for us because we might be surrounding a fire and we don't know which way it's going and how big it's growing, and we kind of want to know what everybody's seeing. Click.
The term I learned doing this process, you guys, and setting this up with Heather and CAL FIRE and Peardale, is ground truthing. So in essence, our job is to go outside and see if what we see on the ground is the same thing that the sensor sees.
Exactly. And then the next question that the app will ask you is kind of what is it that you're seeing? Most of the observations are chimneys and burn piles. Most of the observations and most of the alerts happen in the burn season, not the fire season. We had 178 orange alerts in UBET last burn season, and I think 19 red alerts. And Mike checked every single one of them because we wanted to know if we needed to tune these sensors. They can be kind of customized in how sensitive they are, and we wanted to make sure that that if there was a concerning fire that we knew what it was. By and large, they were burn piles. I think we had one that was too close to a dirt road that had a lot of particles, but by and large, these were verified burns. And in particular, when we did the prescribed burns, many of the sensors go off at once, and we have a low smoldering rolling smoke that you see the pattern on the sensors. And it's something that after a year, what I'm telling you will make sense. You'll just see it. It's not a little alert and then it goes away. You see it go alert, 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 and you can see that the smoke is traveling. So it's kind of interesting. Click. So I mentioned that you could attach a photo. So this is an example of a prescribed fire that was in Sonoma that was backwinded. And in this case, the sensor was on the upwind side, not the backwinded side. So it didn't even know that the smoke was there. But we were able to capture this alert and share it with the community so that they knew what was going on. Click. I mentioned a little earlier that your app subscription and your sensor subscription goes until March 2027. That gives us a good amount of time to work together and improve this application. It's something that every bit of feedback is welcome, every question, every curiosity. We really want to take good use of this and learn as much as we can, and then be able to roll this out to many communities like yours. Click. So we have two different kinds of subscriptions. We have what's called a community manager or liaison. Casey and Mike are those, and then they're designating who in the community is within that. And those in those community will have this ability to invite others. So under in the menu, you say invite others, it'll say you bet. And that way we can all make sure that we have access and we have someone local who is helping us get that subscription cascading it down to the community. That subscription is the only one also that can register a controlled burn. And then there's the next one, which is the the homeowner subscription, and it's a little bit simpler, but you can still turn off on or off alerts and control how active the information, how many text messages you get, and then you can change the radius of your how much, whether you want to see all 10 miles around your home, or if you want it just locally, maybe 1 or 2 miles. Again, this is up to you, and everybody can submit observations. Click. And now we're at the point where you're welcome to join the subscription. I did send the link earlier. We had some challenges with this QR code last week, so I recommend the link. But I look forward to you coming on board and being a good partner. Click. If you wanted to add a sensor to your to this subscription, we welcome that. Today the pricing is a little bit more of a commercial pricing, but people who add a sensor, they get some additional capability. They have a special subscription. And you're welcome to reach out and ask me more about that. Click. Just to give you a sense of like, where does this fit in the overall budget? So this was a grant funded by the federal government, but you can see, you know, it's more expensive than, you know, an hour of tree service, typically, these subscriptions for each home. But the sensors themselves are usually backed and funded by the fire district or the utilities, and we're looking for this public-private partnership to bring it in. But fortunately for us and UBET, this government federal grant is going to be active for a number of years, and so we're, you know, it was a pretty big grant, and we're really thankful for it. Click. I think that's it. I think that's my last slide.
So let's go ahead and open it up to questions about the sensor itself. Any kind of, you know, questions regarding the app and downloading it or usage. Anyone have anything for us?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Colleen.
When Heather's, I'm sorry, the links kept coming up, it was in my way, and so I closed it off, and I was not able to scan the QR code. It wasn't coming through. So how do I get the app?
So
I'll address that, Heather. This is Colleen's first Zoom. There's a button there that says chat, and she put the link in there. I also will send up a follow-up email to all of you guys with the link in it. So you can either do it now or you can wait until you get that email.
Great, thank you.
And just a little bit of, it's not a mobile app that you have to download from an app store. It's really a mobile website, or it's really a website.
Okay.
And so as long as it's on your phone, it's actually going through a browser. And so you can sort of use it on a computer and your phone, but on the computer, it doesn't know your location. And so we have a little bit of a challenge figuring out who you are and giving you the right level of service. But it's really a website access app. And we wanted to make it really easy. We didn't want you to be in a crisis and then have to download an app. So that's why it was built that way.
To that point, Heather, could you speak to, in terms of the phone settings, what geolocation or something like that needs to be on?
Yeah, so we've done a lot since last year on this, but for you to be able to submit an observation, we need your phone to know your location, because we have to put your observation on the map. And so it'll often say, can you change your settings, your location settings? And that would be, I have a bunch of videos that will walk you through it for Android and iOS on the settings, but it's like allow the browser to know your particular location while at this URL is kind of the request that we need to have set up in the background. So
Thank you. And that's critical, because the first thing in a wildfire that we want to know is, where is it? And that's the other, reason why the specificity is so important. So when we look at alert wildfire and we look at the cameras and the fires start up in Lowell Hill and Steep Hollow, and we watch, we listen to CAL FIRE and they're trying to find the fire, right? If we're standing there and we're one doing the observation, we're giving them latitude and longitude. We're telling them exactly where we are. And then the photo that we send shows them exactly what we're seeing, and they can be more specific about where they send their resources. So when Heather said that this is going to the Emergency Command Center, that's dispatch for all resources, all fire agencies in the area, including air attack. So our latitude and longitude coming out of our phone is literally mission critical. So we definitely want to enable that. Any other questions or comments on that section before we move on? All right, Heather, you did a great job, and you have my gratitude everlasting for picking UBET to be the recipient of this grant. We are super excited about it. Our risk. I will tell you guys that at one point, Heather was saying, gosh, I can combine all the sensors we have in a grant to UBET. So let's talk about how we're putting it together as neighbors and residents, because it does work together. So what we're looking at is, yes, this cutting edge technology will help us, do the early detection and the response. But the center pillar here is really building that connected community and starting to share insights around what we're seeing from a fire perspective. So Heather said it was, optional to put in burn piles and prescribed fire. My ask is that anyone who has the Know-Wildfire app does that. So we start to become a lot more cognizant of, what we're doing, when we're doing it. Right now, Facebook UBET community group has a lot of activity, but again, you have to go there to see it. So the difference is that this will come to you as an alert that says, hey, Lisa or Colleen is doing a burn pile today. And that information will be right at her fingertips, and then we can disregard it. So that's super important. And we're continuing to build the relationship with CAL FIRE and Peardale regarding this program. And I'm sure we'll see some modifications occur as we enter into key fire season. The sensors themselves, I just wanted to touch on that again, because it's super interesting. Now that you downloaded the app, or when you do, if you choose to, you will be able to see where every exact spot is of each sensor. So you can click on that sensor and it will tell you literally exactly where it is. So Mike and I know when we see these green dots, follow the line up. We know that's Hanson's, and we know that's Tim's place on Capitol. And we know that this one down here, is where it's at Steve's property. So we know exactly where they are from a personal perspective. And that's super helpful as well, because if there's an alert on each sensor, those are the folks who will most likely be first in on that conversation, right? So they're the ones who will take a picture, do the comment, and say what they see. And we'll go from there. But you guys have access to see that. I also wanted to highlight what it looks like on your screen. So on the left side is what you see are sensors, and those are exact spots. This isn't just a pretend map. This is a real map. It comes right from the quote unquote app of the UBET sensors, and then how it marries up to the existing sensors in Colfax. So again, Sean is the program leader in Colfax, and he's on the call as well. And those sensors in the kind of blue dots are there. And I'm going to ask Sean if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick overview of how you see the sensors working in your area. And you're muted, so you're going to have to unmute.
Hi, Casey.
Hi.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here. And yeah, definitely thank you, Heather, for choosing our area to help test these sensors. So I kind of see these as being able to be that first alert. I'm trying to put mine in places where the cameras aren't gonna be able to necessarily see a fire when it first kicks off, especially in overnight, in some of the canyons and draws, and just try and get that early alert for everybody. So that way, even at the very least, we can point the cameras in the right direction and see what's going on.
Awesome. Well, thanks. We look forward to getting yours all set up.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, and remember, fire does not respect or have any boundaries. So, you know, when we look at the UBET boundary on the eastern side, it's Placer County, and that's what, you know, Sean's working on. So this is good security for all of us. Thanks, Sean, for joining us on today. Just another couple screenshots to show you what it looks like in real time or in real life testing. The one on the left shows you what the yellow alert signal looks like. And then down below, it says a fire warning. This was Hansen Brothers. I think probably 75% of those fire checks or smoke checks that Heather referenced over the winter came from Hansen's. That is a funnel, goes right up the greenhorn. And so oftentimes that sensor is the first to trigger. And then on the right of the screen, if you click into it, what's kind of cool there is it shows you kind of a topography look at it, but it gets you a little closer in, and basically you can say, okay, I know sort of where it is. Now you can see specifically where it is along the Greenhorn Creek there. The smoke from a burn pile would be the comment there when somebody said, hey, this is what's going on. So just to bring it back out, zoom out kind of on a big picture, because a lot of information we've shared with you guys. Super simple. At the top, there's a spark, a fire ignition. The N5 sensors are in place. And the question is, does it detect smoke? If the answer is no, we go down to the right and bottom and just monitor the situation. If it says yes, our actions as a community, number one thing we do, call 911. If we go out and we're the one who's doing the ground truthing and we're checking to see that alert, if it has any, you know, flames, if it has any smoke, if it's smoldering, what it is, if our answer is yes, first things first, call 911. Then you notify the UBET team. You do that via, if you have a radio, you set off the radio alarm, and you post your comments in your picture. But the very first thing you do, even before you put in a comment or a picture, is call 911. If you see flames, that's your first step. And then both entities, the first responders at the emergency dispatch and us, the UBET team, we initiate response. And depending on where it is, what it is, the guys and gals who've gone through our wildland firefighter training, they may go to it and they may not. So we'll make that call once we know what it is, where it is, and the nature of it. But that at a super simple level is kind of the process. Again, we've reiterated that we're working with both CAL FIRE and Peardale. They each have a very different protocol. Peardale is at this point simply having a designated mobile phone that stays at the station, and the on-duty firefighters will be monitoring the Know-Wildfire App, so it's one shared. That may change as we evolve, but we're still continuing to go that route. And we've had a very kind of, I say, streamlined conversations with CAL FIRE and how they're doing it as well. So we appreciate that. Here's just another look at our smoke alert protocol. And again, I'll make sure to get this out to everyone. But it's super important that we get that community verification so we know what kind of actions to take. And I want to really underscore too that an awful lot of the time, what we're going to be doing is de-escalating. So it's just as important to say nothing's happening and put everybody to rest and, you know, peaceful, as it is to, you know, sound the alarm on a fire, right? So close the loop on if there isn't anything to worry about, make sure that everyone knows it. Those of us on the radio program will put that word out as well. Last but not least, we're basically saying, okay, let's go out and look at smoke, right? It's a smoke detector. So I'll be emailing this out, but we kind of created a little guide on different types of smoke. So as we talk about calling 911, they will ask us to describe what we're seeing. So there's smoke color, there's the amount of smoke, there's the movement, and there's the source type. Like sometimes you can see where it's coming from, sometimes you can't. But that information tells 911 what they're dealing with and how intense and serious it is at the time. Kind of in general, the darker colors usually means that it's super active or structures going up. So when you see those huge wildfires and you're watching the camera and you see the black inside of the huge white plumes, that's generally a car or a structure or something like that. So this is something just to start thinking about. Nobody's going to test you on it. There's no pop quiz, but it's just helpful. I found it helpful to sort of understand the different kinds of smoke and what it means. The other thing, a couple of years ago, I was told, because I deal with the fire agencies quite a bit, I was told that we in UBET call 911 and we really don't do a very good job, and that we have incomplete information or inaccurate information. And so a couple of weeks ago, when Heather, Mike, and I were at the Emergency Command Center, I asked their communications director to send me an email on how should we be calling 911. So we've turned that into a wildfire and smoke specific kind of flyer that I'll be emailing out to everyone. And it's a nice sort of cheat sheet for how we should be prepared to call 911, whether it's through the smoke sensors or if we're just traveling around, and what they're going to ask us and how we can be clear and brief and more descriptive and accurate in when we call them to help get them here faster. So real quickly, I wanted to talk about the California wildfire ignition sources, because the other thing is, like, what kind of fires are we going to be looking for? So the first thing to know is that 95% of fire starts are caused by people. We're responsible for almost every single fire that starts. Of the people-caused fires, this is some data from a combination of CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service. And California specific, by the way, this is California data, and most of the fires are started through equipment use and or debris burning, escape burn piles. And in UBET, we do get a ton of those. It's always unintentional. I thought it was out, or I just turned my back, or whatever it might be. Equipment use, the common things are typically power mowers or lawn mowers or, weed whacking and creating sparks on rocks. A lot of fires start when they're just, driving along in Penn Valley, for example. They've got seated lawnmowers, they hit a spark, they don't even know it behind them. And so these things happen. So from an equipment use perspective, that's why you're always seeing CAL FIRE talk about start, your mowing first thing in the morning and be done by 10 a.m. when it's cooler. You don't want to be doing that in the afternoon. So all these other reasons are how human caused fires start. And then we have in the UBET area, natural causes. So the other 4 or 5% of fires are typically lightning. And where does lightning occur? Remote, high elevation areas, late summer, early fall. So we get those summer storms and we do get lightning fires. So our neighbor Brad up off Red Dog, he had a lightning fire during an immense rainstorm a couple summers ago. And Mike was headed over there and he's the one who discovered it. And so they had, they did response. They called 911, but they were, creating a tractor line to create access for them and so forth and so on. The key thing here that I just learned recently is that once you have that lightning fire, or lightning strike, the fires could actually smolder and not even be noticed for 2 to 3 days after the lightning. So that's where these smoke sensors really come in handy. And I would say that, like, if we get one of those storms, those of us who are tracking these alerts should be sort of like waiting to see if, scanning over our back deck, looking out and saying, okay, what do we see? And then if there's a smoke alert that comes along with it, there's a good chance it could have been a lightning strike. So we start to become more sort of aware of what causes these fire starts, and we can put 2 and 2 together. So in UBET, I've kind of created a top, I don't know how many there are, a top hit list, if you will, of what I think are the most ignitions that I've seen over the last 7 years. These are really the reasons why our fires have mostly started. So it is equipment, escape burn piles, lightning, campground fires, dragging chains, and that's obviously a huge risk factor for us since we dead end in the Peninsula Campground, right? And so you've got a lot of out-of-town visitors with RVs, towing boats and trailers and things of that nature. So we get a lot of chains, and that goes along with vehicle sparks. And of course, we have quite a few illegal campers. You know, there's rumors right now of somebody who's, quote, living in the woods. And so those folks, you know, think legally they can do a warming fire, even though they're illegally camping, and that puts us at risk. So we need to be on the lookout for those kinds of things. So the call to action, again, just a quick summary. Sign up if you're interested in the Know-Wildfire program if you'd like the alerts. Monitor those alerts. Participate in the chat and the photos and feedback. And also proactively take pictures and post up when you're doing burns on your property when we get back into, you know, rainy season, fall and winter of next year. So from your perspective, it's pretty simple. What's going to happen next is that we are looking to do some test drills. We will do some with the sensor as a standalone once we get all the new folks kind of, you know, signed up and on board. So everyone knows that it's working, and we can do a couple drills around that. And for those who have these sensors and the radios, we'll be doing a 1-2 punch. So that's really the power of our program, is that we get a smoke alert, we do the check, and then we can communicate, you know, to the rest of the community what's happening. So we'll also do kind of a combined Zoom session now that I'm getting so good at this. Once everybody gets it up and running, we'll do a practice session. And if anybody's having, you know, challenges with it, just kind of rehearse and go through it and make sure that we're all perfectly clear on, you know, the quality of the input from the comments and photos and things of that nature. And we summarize, big question mark. Any questions or comments or feedback? Open it up. What do you guys think?
Well, I think I'm very grateful to Heather and Michael. Thank you very much. And you, Casey, of course.
Thank you, Lori. Good to have you on.
Thank you.
Anyone? Go ahead.
In observing, say you see something, I understand you call 911 first. You mentioned the radio alert, that would be your second call to the U-Bet. Well, I guess there's a group, but if you're not if you're not in the radio circle, then how would you make that notification?
You put the, so after calling 911, if you don't have a radio, your immediate next step is to take a quick picture, just point your camera at what you're seeing and put a comment on it that says fire validated, response needed. And that alert will come to every one of us who has the Know-Wildfire app, right? And so everyone who's got the radios will also have the Know-Wildfire app. So you'll reach everybody with the radio program that way. And then what we will do is activate the radio system and start the communication around response to that fire.
Okay, great. So that's through the app then. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Great question. Anyone else? All right. Well, I will say thank you for helping make U-Bet wildfire ready. You know, fire is a scary thing, and what we're doing is trying to empower us to have information. And the faster we get that information, the sooner we can each make better decisions in terms of our own safety. So you guys are an important part of that, and really do appreciate everyone, you know, for taking the time this evening to sort of figure out what this is. If you have any questions about it, any concerns, you know where to reach me, Casey, youbetfirewise@gmail.com. So thank you guys, and have a great evening. Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And that also applies to me. Just don't be a stranger, reach out. It's okay to have my phone number, Heather at Know-Wildfire, KNOW-wildfire.com, or 530-606-2055. So always available, and you know, we'll tackle and see what's going on and get you help.
I'll include your contact information in my follow-up email, Heather. I did not do it on the first one, but I will do it on this one. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah,
all right, everyone.
It's a great community to work with. It's been really wonderful so far. So,
Great.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Can't even figure out how to sign off now. There it is. Bye-bye.
I'm trying to figure out.
I know this is my second Zoom meeting ever. I'm still struggling. All right, bye.